When Barron Trump and Taylor Swift crossed paths at a dazzling New Year's White House celebration, no one could have predicted the profound conversation that would inspire her next hit song. This is a story you won't forget. It was a night of grandeur and tradition at the White House, but amidst the glittering crowd and celebratory music, one figure stood out. Barron Trump, calm and reflective, lingered quietly, exuding a poise beyond his years. It was this understated presence that caught the attention of Taylor Swift, sparking a connection no one could have foreseen. Taylor, who had performed at every U.S. presidential inauguration in the 20th century, had witnessed countless moments at the White House, ones that most could never truly understand. But what made this young man so intriguing? Was it because he was Donald Trump's son? After all, it's not uncommon for celebrities to be drawn to powerful figures. But was this the case with Taylor Swift? Stay with us as we reveal what unfolds when Taylor Swift meets Barron Trump at the 2025 New Year's celebration. As the night drew to a close, with guests beginning to drift off, Barron, ever the reflective and analytical soul, remained lost in thought in a quiet corner. Taylor, who was about to leave, accidentally bumped into him while passing by. "Oh, sorry," she said in her unmistakably sweet voice. Barron, maintaining his composed demeanor and embodying the perfect gentleman, replied, "It's okay, the event was incredible." Taylor, taken aback for a moment, then smirked as she recognized him. "Wait a minute," Taylor said, tilting her head in recognition. "Didn't I see a story about you helping a waitress in New York last year? That really stuck with me." Barron, with his usual humility, responded, "It was nothing. I just did what needed to be done. This nation has forgotten the importance of showing respect to others." "Wow," Taylor said, still processing the words of a young man whose wisdom seemed to defy his years. His words lingered in her mind, sparking a curiosity she hadn't anticipated. She was drawn in by the unexpected depth in his demeanor, and, unable to contain her interest, asked, "You're completely different from what I imagined. How?" Barron, ever composed, responded with a calm intensity. "Different? Does thinking about others make you different?" Taylor, slightly taken aback, pondered his response for a moment before replying, "No, not necessarily, but being a Trump, well, we never really expected you to be so thoughtful." Her words hung in the air, and it was clear that she was intrigued, her eyes sparkling with a mix of surprise and admiration. The lines between their worlds seemed to blur, and the contrast of Barron's quiet thoughtfulness against his public persona only deepened her fascination. There was a genuine curiosity in Taylor's gaze, as if she had just uncovered a new layer to the mystery that was Barron Trump. Her expression softened as she continued, "I've seen so many people who just don't care about the little things, but you see the bigger picture, don't you?" Taylor's eyes glimmered with curiosity as she took a step closer, her tone softer now. "I mean, it's refreshing to see someone so humble. I really didn't expect that from you, especially considering who your family is. Most people in your position would be, well, different." Barron stood still, his posture unchanged, his gaze distant as if contemplating her words. There was no arrogance in his expression, just a quiet intensity that reflected his inner thoughts. "I don't think humility has anything to do with family or fame," Barron said, his voice calm but firm. "It's about how you view the world and how you treat others, regardless of who you are or what you have. Fame doesn't make a person better or worse, it's how they act when no one's watching." Taylor blinked, caught off guard by his response. She had anticipated a typical answer, maybe one that played into the expectations of his lineage, but Barron's words struck a deeper chord. For a moment, she was speechless, her mind racing as she processed the weight of what he'd just said. "But you must know," Taylor continued, regaining her composure, "people expect a lot from someone like you. They look at your family, your name, and they immediately think they know who you are. It's impressive that you're so grounded despite that." Barron turned to face her fully, his expression steady, but there was an underlying intensity, Maybe it's because I see the world for what it really is, not through the lens people put on me. You're right. People expect me to be something I'm not, but I've learned not to care about their expectations. The world is full of assumptions, and sometimes they're based on nothing more than a name or a title. Taylor's lips parted as though she were about to respond, but the sincerity in Barron's voice made her pause. She was captivated, not just by his maturity, but by the depth in his words, a wisdom she hadn't expected from someone so young. Barron continued, his tone quiet but resolute. People spend too much time trying to label others, trying to fit them into boxes that suit their narratives. I refuse to be anyone's label. I'll never be just a Trump to anyone. I'm me, Barron, and I'll define who I am, not let others do it for me. Taylor, her usual poise fading into genuine admiration, smiled softly. I wish more people thought like you, she said quietly, almost to herself. Barron glanced at Taylor, his calm demeanor unwavering, but there was a flicker of thoughtfulness in his eyes. You know, he began, his voice carrying a quiet confidence. Your music has a way of reaching people, of making them feel seen. That's a gift not many have. Taylor tilted her head, intrigued. Thank you, she said, her tone sincere. I've always tried to connect with my audience, to share something real. Barron nodded, his gaze steady. And you do. But imagine the impact if your songs went even deeper, if they inspired people not just to feel, but to act, to see the good in themselves and in others. Music can be more than just an escape. It can be a spark for something bigger. Taylor blinked, taken aback by the unexpected suggestion. She studied Barron for a moment, her curiosity piqued. You mean, use my platform to bring out something more meaningful? To push people toward positivity? Exactly, Barron replied, his tone calm but purposeful. The world's already filled with enough negativity, enough noise. You have a voice that people listen to, one that can cut through that noise. You could inspire them to think differently, to act with kindness, to believe in something better. Taylor was silent for a moment, her expression thoughtful. She wasn't used to hearing this kind of feedback, especially from someone so young. I've always believed in the power of music, she said, her voice softer now. But I guess I never thought about it that way, as a way to create a ripple effect. Barron gave a small smile. A ripple can become a wave. You've already touched so many lives. Imagine how much more you could do by showing people that it's not just about feeling the music, but living by the ideas behind it. Taylor stared at him, her admiration deepening. You know, for someone your age, you have a way of seeing things that most people don't. Barron shrugged lightly, a hint of modesty in his posture. I just think we all have a responsibility to make the world a little better, in whatever way we can. You've got a stage most people only dream of. Why not use it to light a path for others? Taylor smiled, her expression warm and sincere. You're right. Maybe it's time I started thinking about how my music can do more than just tell stories. It can inspire them. Thank you, Barron. That's something I'll carry with me. Barron simply nodded, his quiet wisdom speaking volumes without the need for further words. For a fleeting moment, the lines between their worlds blurred, and in that shared space, they both found something they hadn't expected: inspiration. As Taylor left the conversation that night, the weight of Barron's words lingered in her mind. She had met countless people in her career, artists, leaders, visionaries. But there was something about the way Barron carried himself, the quiet strength in his convictions, that struck a chord deep within her. She replayed his words over and over as she walked to her car, the distant hum of the party fading behind her. That night, Taylor sat by her hotel window, her thoughts restless as she replayed their conversation. Barron's words, his quiet defiance, his unshakable sense of self, stirred something deep within her. She grabbed her notebook, the city lights reflected in its blank pages, and let her emotions pour out. With each line she wrote, she felt the weight of his message, the spark of his challenge, and the hope of creating something meaningful. The lyrics came in fragments at first, but soon they flowed, raw and unfiltered, capturing the essence of their exchange. The next morning, Taylor woke up with an idea buzzing in her head. She grabbed her guitar and started scribbling down lyrics, her pen flying across the page as she tried to capture the essence of their conversation. The words came effortlessly, as though they had been waiting inside her all along. They call you by the name they know, a shadow of what they think you show. But you stand, unshaken, untamed. More than the title, more than the fame. They see the label, not the light, but you shine through the darkest night. A ripple turned into a wave, a voice that teaches how to be brave. 'Cause it's not the name that makes the soul. It's the fire within, the self-control. Breaking the mold, defining the way, living for truth, come what may. Satisfied with the skeleton of the song, Taylor headed to the studio. For the next week, she poured her heart into crafting the melody, working closely with her team to ensure the song carried the weight of her inspiration. The guitar chords were raw and emotional, the drums steady and determined, a reflection of the strength she saw in Barron. She wanted the song to feel personal, yet universal, a message to anyone who felt overshadowed by labels or expectations. When the track was finished, Taylor decided to release it as a surprise single, without the usual build-up or marketing campaign. She simply titled it Name and Soul and shared it with her fans, writing, "This song is for those who refuse to be defined by others, who stand tall in their own truth." The response was immediate. Within hours, the song went viral. Fans dissected the lyrics, drawn to the poignant message and the raw vulnerability in Taylor's voice. Social media buzzed with discussions about its meaning. People speculated about who had inspired her, but Taylor kept that detail private. A few weeks later, Taylor was invited to perform at a charity event in Washington, D.C. The venue was intimate, with a crowd of just a few hundred people. As she strummed her guitar and sang the first notes of Name and Soul, she scanned the audience, her eyes falling on a familiar face. There, standing near the back, was Barron Trump. He wasn't surrounded by an entourage or seeking attention. He was just there, quietly watching, his expression calm but attentive. For a moment, Taylor faltered, her voice catching slightly in her throat, but she quickly regained her composure, pouring even more emotion into the performance. When the song ended, the crowd erupted into applause, but Taylor's eyes remained fixed on Barron. As the night wound down and the audience began to disperse, she made her way to where he stood. "You made it," she said, smiling warmly as she approached him. Barron nodded, his usual composed demeanor intact. "I heard about the song. I had to hear it live." Taylor's cheeks flushed slightly, a rare moment of vulnerability for her. "It's about you, you know," she admitted. "Well, not just you, but the way you see the world. It inspired me. I've met so many people, but you made me think differently." Barron's lips curved into a small smile, his gaze steady. "It's a beautiful song, and it's not just about me, it's about everyone who's ever felt trapped by what others expect of them. You've given them something to hold on to." Taylor tilted her head, studying him. "Do you ever feel trapped?" she asked softly. He hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. "Not anymore. Not when I know I'm living for what matters to me. That's all that counts." Taylor reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Well, for what it's worth, you're one of the most inspiring people I've met. And I hope you know that your words, they're out there now, touching lives, just like you said my music could." Barron looked at her, his expression thoughtful but warm. "And I hope you know that your voice is louder than you think. Keep using it, for the right things." They exchanged a smile, a moment of mutual respect and understanding, before parting ways. As Taylor watched Barron disappear into the crowd, she felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't just about the song or the fame, it was about connection, about change, about inspiration. And somewhere in the distance, Barron walked away with the faintest of smiles, knowing that his words had sparked something greater than either of them could have imagined. The world often tries to define people by their names, their backgrounds, or their circumstances. But as Barron and Taylor's story reveals, True identity lies in how we choose to live and inspire others. Sometimes, a single, honest conversation can spark something far greater, a ripple that becomes a wave, transforming not just individual lives, but the world around them.